And if you don't live in Marion County, check with your local county clerk. Odds are you can vote there. But I really want to encourage you to get involved. We're human beings, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and part of that human experience is to partake in a democracy. So, good morning. Have I mentioned that it's the 100th anniversary of Unity of Indianapolis? We focus quite a bit on the 100th anniversary, obviously, and this whole month has been a look at our history so that next month we can kind of shift and look forward. You heard about the charting, the new course program that we're going to do. Good interactive seminar on the first Saturday, or the second Saturday, rather, in November. This is also, though, the 50th anniversary of this part of the building being finished. This was finished in 1964 for Easter weekend. And also, 50 years ago, we started the Unity radio show, that we pre-record and plays every Sunday morning at 10:30. Reach a lot of shut-ins and people who maybe hadn't been aware of us and just by coincidence happened to come across 88.7 on the FM dial at 10:30 on Sundays. But this is also a very powerful year of national Unity anniversaries. 50 years ago today, or not today, but 50 years ago this year, the Unity School of Christianity recognized that it didn't have enough people to staff and serve the ministries in the field. So they prompted the Unity Ministers Association to consider expanding and serving the many growing ministries in the field. And so that is now called Unity Worldwide Ministries. It was incorporated 2 years later in 1966. 90 years ago, this last July, the first edition of the Daily Word was printed. So that's been going for 90 years. And then, of course, 125 years ago, on December 7th, 125 years ago in 1889, Charles and Myrtle sat down and set the intention for the Unity movement, started the Unity movement. In fact, a photocopy of that covenant is on the wall in the friendship room, that big framed thing on the back wall back there. That was their covenant. And so, while we've been focusing on Unity of Indianapolis for most of the month, today I want to take a look at the Unity movement in general. 125 years ago. In fact, the fundamentalist Christian movement didn't get started until 1905. A lot of people don't know that. So we actually, and that was, in fact, it was very much a backlash to unity and these other new thought ideas of like, wait a minute, the Bible shouldn't be taken literally. There's some very powerful spiritual lessons in it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at about an 18-minute video. It's actually spliced together from two videos that were done over the last 20 years to just kind of give people an overview of unity. I kind of taken the best from both and spliced it together. You'll see some old telephones and computers from about 15 years ago. It's a good reminder of how much technology is changing and how quickly. You'll hear mention of audio cassettes and the like, which are, of course, are not seen that much now. At the very beginning of this video, you'll see this overhead shot. It's a helicopter coming into Unity Village from the south, and then at the end of the video, you'll see it coming into Unity Village from the north. Unity Village is an incorporated village. It's the headquarters of the Unity movement. It's in the southeast suburbs of Kansas City. So, I'm going to have Jesse, if you'll please go ahead and roll that video. We'll take a look at this together.
This is Unity Village, Missouri, the heart of a worldwide religious organization based on Christian principles, spiritual values, and the healing power of prayer. This is a place of love and acceptance, a place of harmony and diversity, a place of faith. Our world headquarters is known as the Unity School of Christianity. It is a nonprofit religious educational institution. We're located on 1,400 acres of beautiful landscaped grounds and gardens just southeast of Kansas City, Missouri. This is the center of a non-denominational ministry of prayer, publishing, and education. Unity was founded in Kansas City more than 100 years ago, in 1889, by a husband and wife, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. They wanted to use the teachings of Jesus in a practical way in their daily lives. They emphasized constructive thinking, affirmative prayer, and spiritual healing. The Fillmores began writing about their beliefs, and the Unity movement was born. Unity serves the spiritual needs of all people who seek our help, regardless of their religious background or affiliation. Membership in Unity is offered, but not required. People who attend Unity are free to belong to other religious organizations. We are a Christian organization. The Bible is Unity's basic textbook, and our teachings are based on the life and teachings of Jesus. All people are welcome at Unity. Unity has several basic beliefs upon which our teachings are based. We believe God is good. We believe God is everywhere. In fact, we believe the Spirit of God and goodness lives within each person. We believe there is a relationship between our thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, and our life experience. And we believe there is power in affirmative prayer that not only helps us face the challenges of daily living, but that also helps us discover our oneness with God. How people apply our teachings to their lives is an individual matter. We let people know about the ideas and spiritual principles that have transformed our lives, and we encourage people to put them to the test. Prayer and positive affirmations are cornerstones of Unity thinking. Co-founder Myrtle Fillmore was a victim of tuberculosis, but she overcame her physical challenges to become a teacher, a wife, and the mother of 3 sons. At age 40, Myrtle's doctors told her that she only had a few months to live. At a lecture by Dr. Eugene B. Weeks, Myrtle heard an affirmation that lived in her heart and mind and became part of her daily meditations. I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Through her prayers and meditations, Myrtle directed all of her positive energy toward recovering her health. She was actively involved in the Unity work until her death at age 86. Charles Fillmore was a practical businessman who began to study his wife's healing with the perspective of a scientist. Charles had been injured in childhood and had a withered leg and impaired sight and hearing. Seeking his own understanding, Charles sat in silence each evening, month after month, to get in touch with God. Ultimately, Charles's sight and hearing were restored, and he discarded his leg brace and walked with only a limp for the rest of his life. He lived to be 93. In the early days, the Fillmores gathered each evening in their home to pray with friends and those too far away to be there in person. Myrtle received letters asking for prayer support. She personally answered all the letters she received. From these simple and humble beginnings, the Fillmores founded the Society of Silent Help, which today is called Silent Unity.
In 1891, the name Unity came to Charles during meditation. In 1892, the Fillmores dedicated their lives to God and promised to rely solely on God to meet all their needs. Charles began to focus on offering a practical approach to applying the teachings of Jesus Christ to everyday life.
Unity is a link in the great educational movement inaugurated by Jesus Christ. Our objective is to discern the truth in Christianity and prove it. The truth that we teach is not new, neither do we claim special revelations or discovery of new religious principles. Our purpose is to help and teach humankind to use and prove the eternal truth taught by the Master.
In the early 20th century, Unity began building a complex of 3 buildings on Tracy Avenue in Kansas City. In 1929, Silent Unity moved to Unity Farm, which later became Unity Village. Because of the Great Depression, all operations were returned to Kansas City, where they remained until the late 1940s. Construction resumed in the 1940s and 50s. The entire property was incorporated in 1953 as Unity Village and remains the home of Unity School's world headquarters. Charles and Myrtle had 3 sons, Rickert, Lowell, and Royal. The overall concept for Unity Village was developed by Rickert. Rickert's daughter Rosemary was born at Unity Village. She describes her memories of living there.
Until I was 12 years old, I had a childhood as nearly perfect as anyone could possibly have had. Unity Farm was an idyllic place for a child. It provided all those things that children enjoy. In my growing up years, it was not only a spiritual community, it was also a working farm. There were orchards and vineyards and crops in cultivation. There were chickens and cows and horses and ponies and dogs. Since it allowed no hunting, Unity Farm also teemed with wildlife: deer, foxes, coyotes, rabbits, squirrels, and all kinds of birds. There were recreational facilities for the people who worked at Unity, including a swimming pool, a golf course, tennis courts, clubhouse for parties, playground, picnic grounds, and vacation cottages, and a beautiful amphitheater for summer theater and concerts. There were lakes and ponds for boating and fishing, and there were woods to roam. Each season brought with it a special activity and celebration.
Today, the Mediterranean-style campus includes 1,400 acres of gardens, chapels, and recreational facilities. The 165-foot tower has an electric carillon and a 100,000-gallon water tank, which is still used today to supply water to Unity Village residents and employees. Myrtle Fillmore died in 1931. 2 years later, Charles married Cora Dedrick, who devoted her life to compiling his writings into manuscripts. In 1948, at the age of 93, Charles said,
I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm, and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me.
On July 7, 1948, Charles died.
The prayer ministry remains the heart and soul of the Unity movement, providing prayer support 365 days a year, 24 hours a day to people around the world. At Silent Unity, friends with prayer needs may call at any hour to pray with a prayer associate, or they may write for prayer support. Unity receives more than 2 million requests each year. Each call and letter is kept in confidence. There is never a charge for Silent Unity's prayers. Toll-free numbers are provided for those who are unable to pay for a long-distance call. Unity Telephone Prayer Ministry Associates are available to pray with people, whatever the need. When you reach out to Silent Unity, it's like praying with a friend. Our prayer ministry is non-denominational. The people who call us are of many faiths. The most frequent prayer request is for physical healing. Unity believes in the power of positive prayer to influence people's lives, but we never suggest that people forsake medical attention. Other frequent Silent Unity prayers are for prosperity, a meaningful and abundant life, and for help in relationships. Sometimes it's a prayer that helps someone go to sleep at night. Other times, it may be a prayer for a lost or sick pet. Silent Unity is located under the lighted cupola at Unity Village. It is the light that shines for you. Someone is always here praying, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is one of several Silent Unity prayer centers around the world.
I can't begin to tell you how much unity has changed my outlook on life. The power of prayer is thunderous. For the past 6 years, I have been sorely troubled with arthritis, even to using a cane. Through prayer and thankfulness, the disease has left my body. I walk freely, joyously, and thankfully.
Just as thousands of friends reach Silent Unity in prayer every day, Unity reaches out to thousands more around the world through its publishing ministry. This includes Daily Word, a monthly series of inspirational messages that has been published since 1924. It is sent to more than 1 million subscribers. Daily Word magazines are published in 9 languages and also in large print, braille, and audio cassette versions. Unity has a rich history of the written word, but has also branched out into other mass media, including cassettes and compact discs. Unity's books and magazines, available in Unity churches around the country, are also available in mainstream bookstores and are used by people of many faiths.
I have been wonderfully helped, physically and mentally. My finances, too, are looking brighter. I am more grateful than I can express for this new life. I have never read anything that gave me more pleasure than your literature, and I am learning more and more how to trust God's divine guidance.
At any time, about 60 students are studying in a full 24-month program to become Unity ministers. A college degree and many hours of formal Unity study are required before entry into the ministerial school. Adult religious education is provided through Unity's continuing education program, which teaches practical ways to make life more meaningful and fulfilling. Hundreds participate in several educational sessions each year for personal development or to become licensed Unity teachers or to prepare themselves to be Unity ministers. People of all faiths from all over the world come to Unity Village each year for special retreats that renew their spirits. Inspirational messages, music, recreation, and joyous fellowship restore the mind, the body, and the soul.
As I resume my usual busy schedule of activities and feel the need for a little relaxation, I just picture myself leisurely strolling among the beauty of the village, sitting in the Peace Chapel, or listening to the inspiration of wonderful programs. How thankful I am for these memories, which seem as real to me as if I were actually there.
Unity School of Christianity's sister organization, the Association of Unity Churches, is located in nearby Lee Summit. The association is affiliated spiritually with Unity School, but it is a distinct corporation comprised of about 800 Unity churches and study centers. These churches range in size from a few people who meet in someone's home, as Charles and Myrtle Fillmore did in the early days, to large churches with several hundred people attending multiple services on Sundays. Unity strongly promotes diversity in our work environment. We truly believe we are all children of God, and we are enthusiastic about what we can accomplish by working together.
Ngiphaphamela umoya wakho okimi uNkulunkulu somandla.
We believe we are stronger when we celebrate and embrace our differences. Former Vice President of Unity School and Director of Silent Unity, James Dillett Freeman, wrote a poem which has been used throughout this planet and beyond. It was taken to the moon by astronaut Buzz Aldrin on the first moon landing, Apollo 11, in 1969. It is a prayer often used in Unity services. We hope these words will help guide you as you go on your journey today.
The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is.
So I hope that gives you a bit of a sense of what we're a part of, a unity movement that's worldwide now. In fact, while Carla and I were in the Unity Seminary there, ministerial school from 2000 to 2002, the Association of Unity Churches, which is now called Unity Worldwide Ministries, they changed their name a couple years ago, realizing with everybody doing internet searches and stuff, they're looking for the word unity. So why not have that as the first word in our organization? Was contacted by some people in China saying, wow, this is an amazing philosophy. It's obviously, it appeals to Buddhists, it appeals to Christians. Could you send some books and some materials? And they said, sure, how many people you got? Just assuming a couple of people in the living room, 6,000. And this was back in 2002, so it is growing quite a bit nationwide. But if you want to explore, the Unity movement a little bit more, we have a universal website called unity.org. So I encourage you to jump on that. Of course, we've been talking about our new website, unityofindy.com. But unity.org, has connections to, there's a retreat there at the village several times a month, weekend retreats. And there's the Adult of Unity retreat, usually every summer for 1 week. So these are all ways that you might be able to get a little bit more acquainted with the Unity movement in general and meet people from all over the world. I know we took a group to the Unity's Adult of Unity retreat last year, and we had some people in from Africa. Unity's actually was very big in Africa because some guest speakers there from the Unity movement went over to Africa in the 1920s, and a lot of the tribal people found that, wow, this is a Christianity that makes a lot more sense than those fundamentalists who've been around for a while. But while history is nice, it's the philosophy, that appeals to people. It's nice to know your history and the pleasant and the unpleasant, the ups and the downs of the Unity movement, as well as the ups and downs of Unity of Indianapolis. The interesting thing about Unity is that while it started as a healing ministry, and there still are a lot of healing ministries out there, what they recognized was that they needed to go beyond and recognize that this power, this spiritual essence that's at the very core of who we are, can bring goodness to all areas of your life. Your health, yes, but also your occupation, your relationships, and your finances. So once it took it beyond that and recognized that this is more about being a spiritual being, having a human experience, rather than just focusing on healing, Unity thrived while a lot of the other little modern thought and new thought organizations died off. There are just a handful left now. There's a Center for Spiritual Living. They actually grew out of the religious science movement, which started about 20 years after Unity. And there's also Divine Science, a group of about 24 churches that have been around since about the 1920s. So these are all people that believe the way we do, and then we've got some independent New Thought organizations, and then of course the Course of Miracles was written in the 1970s. All similar philosophies recognizing that this Bible doesn't need to be taken literally. In fact, I'll have Jesse just go ahead and put up that first slide. We recognize that most of the narrative stories in the Bible have this rich symbolism in them. And some of the more bizarre stories, it's kind of like it doesn't seem to make any sense until you recognize the symbolism. And the symbolism has been carried on through these esoteric groups for more than 2,000 years. And then by comparing notes with other spiritual belief systems, we started seeing, like for example, Jesus and his 12 apostles. Well, the 12 apostles actually recognize 12 spiritual gifts that have been given to you. And once you recognize them and call them forth in service to your life, you'll have a much more rich life. In Unity, we call it the 12 powers. And we've got several books on that. The 5 basic Unity principles, though, on the next slide. Back in 1989, for the 100th anniversary of Unity, for a couple years they worked on how can we kind of distill our message down to a couple of minutes. The old elevator speech concept. It's like, how can we, if you're meeting somebody new and you're trying to describe who we are, and they came up with these 5 principles, which were kind of loosely based on the 5 fundamentals, which I'll cover in another Sunday lesson sometime, the 5 fundamentals from like 1905. But they came up with God, you, thought, word, and deed. The first principle is God, that God is everywhere. God is all-powerful, God is all-knowing, and you are a part of God, or that spiritual creative energy that's at the core of the universe. You are a part of that God. You have this divinity within you, and it's up to you as to whether you want to be awake to it or asleep to it. I know I was asleep to it for first 29 years of my life. And then finally you wake up and you start to recognize that number 3, thought, that your thoughts can be controlled by you, and that your thoughts work in concert with this creative energy to build belief systems, and that these belief systems are what create our experience in our lives. And then word, by actually speaking, denials and affirmations, which I'll get to in just a moment, you can actually start to change those old belief systems and have a more pleasant life. Never underestimate the power of your spoken declarations. And then deed is another word for action. You can know all of these things. You can come on Sunday. I remember this one fellow, when the church Carla and I served down in Florida. Well, I've been coming to Unity for 30 years. But I didn't see him practicing any of the principles. It's like anything else. It works if you work it. So if you're willing to put it to work in your life. And then on the next slide, the denials and affirmations. We have built up belief systems. We have put our thoughts to use earlier in our lives. So a denial, the word denial is kind of taken on a negative connotation. Someone's in denial. They don't understand their true feelings and emotions. In Unity, a denial is where you make a declarative statement where you're breaking up your old belief system. I, Bob Uhlar, now dissolve, deny, release any thoughts, feelings, or fears that I can't pay my bills. So the denial is a way of you just changing within your thoughts and beliefs. I know sometimes people misunderstand denials as being some sort of a Harry Potter magic. I now force this terrible thing to be gone from my life. It's like, no, it's more about you recognizing your spiritual energy that creates your life rather than trying to dissolve something out here. You want to dissolve that belief system in here. And then an affirmation is aligning yourself, your true identity, with something that is in spiritual truth. Like if you're having difficulty paying your bills, you'd use a denial like I just said, and you say, I now embrace the divine idea of prosperity. I now embrace the divine idea that all of my bills will be paid in full on time. That sort of a thing. So these are all very powerful tools. And as Carla had mentioned a little bit earlier, we wandered into a Unity Center for the first time in 1987. I know my life was a mess, and Carla was, we had been together for a couple months, and we're talking about, wow, what we believed about God, and we thought we were so weird. Now, like Carla said, you sit at the back of the sanctuary the first time you're here, so you can sneak out if the people are too weird. For us, we wanted to sneak out if they weren't weird enough. But we found we really liked unity. And, over the next 10 years, I went through the process of recognizing that, wow, I could do that. I could be a minister. To the next step, which was, I probably should be a minister. And then finally I got to the point where I recognized I have to be a minister. And that's what you need to find in you, is what is that thing, that one thing that you've got to do? What are your special gifts? What are your special talents? And being willing to put them in service, not only here in this congregation, serving each other, but serving other people out there in the world. Because whatever you focus on is going to expand. And if you focus on the good in your life, that good is going to expand. From the Gospel of John, 8th chapter, 31st and the 32nd verse. Jesus then said to the Jews who believed in him, "If you continue in my way, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And may you always be open to God's guidance and grace."